Liz Cheney finally endorses Kamala, and I heard there's a debate or something happening in a couple days. The stake starts right now. Well. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Tara.
Thank you for everyone who is waiting patiently for us. I had to do Joy Reid tonight, and so we started the stakes a little bit later than usual, but mark your calendars because we are going to start doing the stakes at 7:30 now post Labor Day for the rest of this year, because a lot of times I get called to do MSNBC and we don't want to not be able to do that. And we still want to be with you guys. So make a note of it. We're going to start doing the stakes at 7:30 every Thursday. Now, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. It's been crazy.
Too much.
We had Labor Day weekend, which is like the big, mark your calendar. Once Labor Day weekend is over, it is a mad dash from now until November 5th. And I predicted that Liz Cheney would probably endorse Kamala right after Labor Day, because that's when everybody's paying attention. So I'm glad that I like being right, Michelle. I like being right.
Who doesn't?
I know. I didn't want to be right about Donald Trump being terrible for the country, because that was bad. I didn't want that to be right. I don't want to be right about that stuff. But I'm glad to see that Liz Cheney has come out. And not only did she say she's not voting for Trump, which we could pretty much assume, but she also said, no, I'm voting in the affirmative for Kamala Harris.
That's
and here's why. That's a big deal, because you have other people like John Bolton and Bill Barr and some of these other cowards that are like, I'm going to write somebody in. No, you freaking cowards. You don't write somebody in. That's just as bad as voting for
We don't
Trump.
have the luxury.
No.
That's a luxury item. You know what I mean? Like that's something, we don't need, but maybe we want, right? I mean, you have to pick. It's a binary choice. You have to pick the one that gets us closest to saving democracy, which is always going to be Kamala Harris. And unfortunately, never a Republican, probably ever again.
Not anymore. Not as long as this iteration of the Republican Party exists. Now, listen, I didn't write in. I voted for Evan McMullin in 2016. I've been very open about that. I also lived in a state where it didn't matter at the time. I lived in New Jersey. It was a protest vote for me. I was still very much ensconced in my Republican world. And I didn't think Trump was going to win. Frankly, I really didn't.
None of us did.
No, I know.
I mean, a whole bunch of my friends down at the Javits Center didn't.
Yeah, I wasn't a bad day. But I'll tell you, I will never do that again. In our system, it is a binary choice. And we are looking at something that is either we want our democracy to succeed and we want women to have equal rights and we want to be a more perfect union and still have the opportunities to achieve that, or we end up in a dystopian hellscape with an absolute freaking insane person and then another insane person who's actually not as insane, but smarter and more diabolical in J.D. Vance if he were to ever get power, because he'd be a heartbeat away, because Donald Trump isn't exactly the healthiest guy and he's also almost 80. So it's a binary choice, people. It's a binary choice. And that's what we are going to continue to hammer home day after day after day in all of our work with the Seneca Project and what we're doing speaking to women, because there's a lot at stake. And one of those things, because we've got so much to talk about, we've got the Liz Cheney stuff, we have the debate coming up, we also have Trump this week trying to flip-flop on abortion and IVF and trying to convince and gaslight American women that, oh, no, I didn't really mean it. Yeah, okay, we don't believe you.
They'll say anything.
No. Yeah, of course, it's what con artists do. Right. Con artists are going to con. It's what I just said on MSNBC. I mean, seeing Donald Trump in front of the Economic Club in New York try to answer those questions, like real policy questions.
Painful.
Come on.
Word salad. I mean, whatever question it was, whether it was about economic policy or asking about how we're going to pay for childcare for mothers, all these things, right? It's the same answer for everything. It's word salad. It's just a bunch of words strung together. And it's, we have a policy about that. It's beautiful. It's the best thing that's ever happened. And it's really terrible now. But it's going to grow. It's going to grow like it's never grown before, and vote for me. I mean,
Things,
it's just,
right?
there's
The
no
same buzzwords.
Right. And people are like, oh yeah, that feels right.
Well, MAGA people.
Well,
MAGA people, because they're in a cult,
right.
and it's like a hypnosis. He just says the same 10 words over,
You're
and it's like
sleepy.
exactly.
Right.
The rest of us that live on Earth 1, we're like, no. And so it's just a matter of making sure that the people who are paying attention go out there and vote and make the right decisions, and aren't filled with misinformation.
Right.
Because we saw what's been going on. There's so much misinformation and disinformation, right? That disinformation is the blatant attempt to try to manipulate people with information that ain't true. Okay, that's the misinformation. So you've got the conspiracy theories and all that nonsense. And then you have the disinformation campaigns to distribute it and to convince people that it is. This is very dangerous stuff. And we also just saw this week that the Department of Justice uncovered that you've got Russians paying these right-wing influencers who are spewing a lot of this bullshit to people, and it's being funded by Russia. Oh, we know. Yeah, right. Okay. We remember the Mueller report back as far as 2014.
The Russia hoax.
Recognized, right, the hoax. No, Russia recognized
Russia.
that the way to destroy America is to divide us. And they took the Black Lives Matter protests and what was going on with policing and all of that, and they manipulated it and created fake groups and sowed more of those divisions through social media as far back as 2014. And they saw how easy it was to do on social media. And they're still doing it now. They had a whole Russian intelligence division devoted to this, taking on American identities, using our terminology. It's like something straight out of the Americans. They study us, they know us, and they're still doing that shit today as we speak.
There are more Russian spies living in the United States now than there were in the 80s, in the height of the Cold War.
Which is nuts.
Which is crazy.
That's
and also, if anybody that's watching is a fan of the Americans, every time I see one of these stories, I'm like, oh my God. But it's true. I mean, I always listen. I live in New York. I'm sure there's a ton of them here, and I always second guess who I'm talking to. You know,
you never know. They could be living next door.
Never know.
You never know. So, I mean, we just saw with that prisoner swap recently. There was a family,
the children didn't even know they were Russian.
Didn't know, had no idea. The mom was hugging Putin, and the kids are like, I'm sorry, what? They were Spanish speakers. They were like, oh, we don't know what is happening.
They were in South America or something, right? Yeah.
So, but anyway, so this is what's going on. Like, this is real. We're not making this up. When we say we're up against serious darkness here and serious, very well-funded and organized forces, we are. This didn't just happen overnight. It did not.
Patient.
Yes.
They play the long game.
Like
I mean, while the Republican Party's been at this for decades, they now have more help from the outside, whether they know it or not. I saw Sarah Longwell actually tweeted later today. She said, the thing about useful idiots is they're idiots.
Yes.
You know,
very true.
Yeah,
that's very true. And but unfortunately, idiots also vote. So we need to make sure that there's more of us than there are of them. I think there will be, but we have to fight for it. We cannot take it for granted.
Exactly. And that's why I think, to your point, Republicans like Liz Cheney, who are respectable and care about the Constitution, coming forward and saying, hey, I don't agree with Kamala Harris on everything that she says or does or her policy platforms, but I'm a one-issue voter at this point. And that one issue is democracy. And, I personally, as a Democrat, there's not much I agree with Liz Cheney on except for this, but all the respect to her for doing this. It's not easy. You really have to sacrifice a lot to do the right thing in this country, which is extremely unfortunate. But I do have the clip from her Q&A at Duke University. We should watch it.
I mean, let's watch it, despite the fact that it's at Duke. But no offense, went to Duke, but
listen, nobody likes Duke.
No, it's really more of a basketball thing. But anyway, roll it.
So a number of people asked me to ask this question. So do you want to make news? Would you like to announce who you're endorsing in 2024?
Because we're here in North Carolina, I think it is crucially important for people to recognize not only is what I've just said about the danger that Trump poses something that should prevent people from voting for him, but I don't believe that we have the luxury of writing in candidates' names, particularly in swing states. And as a conservative, as someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this. And because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris in this election.
I think that was great, and North Carolina's in play. And look, I know that there are a lot of people on the left who have a tough time with Liz Cheney, and I get it.
Yeah,
but she's doing the right thing now, and she's done the right thing since January 6th, and she creates a permission structure for other Republicans who might have been on the fence. If Liz Cheney can do it, I can do it. And that's really where the value is here. I don't think she has any interest in being in the Harris administration or being part of their cabinet. That's not it. She's singularly focused on making sure Donald Trump never, ever sees the White House again. And as long as we're all on the same team in that respect, I think that, it's valuable. It's valuable.
I agree. And one of the things we were talking about on social last night is that at the Seneca Project, we are a bipartisan organization between Tara and myself and our advisory board and the people who work with us. Our political ideologies, is pretty diverse. And but at the end of the day, what matters most in the moment that we need it to happen, we reach across the aisle to get things done.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing. And I think, that puts us in a very unique position to be able to reach out to those independents and right of center women, specifically in these battleground states, over the next couple of months. Because, to your point, I think you just said that on Joy Reid, that they are very likely to be the deciding factor in this election.
Yes. And that's how the system's supposed to work. It's supposed to be bipartisan. There's supposed to be compromise. You can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You can't have these ideological purity tests. And that goes for both sides. But you have to accomplish things. That's why the founding fathers set the system up the way they did. It was so that there was consensus as broadly as possible. You're not always going to get everything, but you're gonna come together and have an overall reflection of the country. So this is good. I think this is a good thing, and it helps with the momentum heading into Tuesday's debate, which Trump is clearly dreading, clearly ill-prepared for, clearly setting up already that, the low expectations, because when Kamala Harris wipes the floor with him, which I suspect she will, he will have an excuse. He's going to whine and bitch and complain. Oh, it was set up. It was not fair. It was blah, 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 blah. This is so typical Trump. But other things that are going to happen and things that they're going to talk about, he thinks that these speeches he's given in the last couple of, in these town halls that he's given in the last week, 2 weeks, somehow is going to absolve his entire record. And one of the big things is really his flip-flop on abortion and IVF. And these are issues, reproductive freedom and choice for women. These are huge issues for us because even if I was pro-life most of my entire political career and realized that there are limits to that, and there's more to this conversation. And I have evolved on this issue, especially after Dobbs, because it was a lack of imagination. And Michelle, you and I talk about this a lot. It was a lack of imagination where people thought, oh, the Supreme Court will never overturn Roe. It was all very notional. That's never going to happen.
You can imagine it. They're already planning it.
And they did, and they succeeded. So when you hear Donald Trump out here saying, oh, I'm not for a national abortion ban. Do you believe this guy?
Well, and there are polls now, there's research that is showing that, well, I have it right here, that in these battleground states, where they're asking and surveying people about Project 2025 and the messages, that are penetrating. A lot of them are breaking through. As you can see here, the Democrats have most awareness about it, have heard at least something.
Well, part of that is because, the repetitive nature of bringing up Project 2025. There is power in repetition. Repetition creates reality. That's why Donald Trump repeats the same shit over and over again, the same lies over and over and over and over and over again ad nauseum, because people remember it. Eventually it will break through.
That's right. And so
this study here is showing that the confusion that he's sowing about not supporting a national abortion ban, or that somehow he's moderated on the issue of women's rights, is confusing people, because they believe a lot of the other crazy shit that's in Project 2025. But no, this isn't that bad, right?
And I have notes here just because I can't exactly see that, but it says, if you look down 1, 2, 3, 4 down, a national ban on abortion. This is where 16% of battleground voters believed a national abortion ban is one of the most likely outcomes in the second term. But also 16% believed it would be one of the least likely outcomes. So it is split evenly, which means that is the one issue that is not breaking through.
Right.
And again, this is where I think the Seneca Project and our messaging and our ads can reach these people and remind them of not just the flip-flopping, but just their lies.
Right.
Lying and lying and lying and lying about it. And if you know Jessica Valenti, she writes about this quite literally every single day. And the Republicans, as she say, are muddying the waters, and the press is helping them because they are. Look at these headlines from the last couple of weeks.
It's unbelievable. Trump promises universal IVF coverage and says Florida's 6-week abortion ban is too short. I'm going to start with that one. Donald Trump also, he just made up that shit about universal IVF coverage. Okay, that's never happening. He just said that because they were getting destroyed on that issue. And like I said, we have a big ad coming out tomorrow morning. So if you're not signed up through our website to get our emails and things, please go there and sign up. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can be one of the first to see it. We're doing our first Girl Dad ad, and it has to do with IVF. And I'm telling you right now, Donald Trump is full of shit. There's not going to be IVF coverage universally. He doesn't even have the ability to mandate this. Okay. Republicans scream and yell and gnashing of teeth when they were talking about universal healthcare and government mandated healthcare. They're not going to tell private insurance companies what they have to cover with this. That's number one. And the government's not going to do it because you know how much that it would cost? Billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars. Never happening.
One round of IVF is what, $15,000, $20,000?
Depending on where you live, could be up to $30,000.
In New York, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's really expensive, and more private insurance companies are offering coverage for it. But that's within the marketplace, and there can be discussions about how it should be more affordable or not. But it's not going to be government mandated. I'm telling you that right now, and I'm not sure how I feel about that anyway. But anyway, that's besides the point. The other thing, too, is where he said about the abortion, 6 weeks, the abortion ban in Florida. For those of you who live in Florida, you know there's a ballot initiative right now that's trying to codify women's rights on this issue, on reproductive rights. And it takes a 60% threshold. Donald Trump just said this week that he's not in favor of it. So which is it? You can't have it both ways. Here's a perfect example. He just flip-flopped on it within a week.
And really what it is, he can't control himself, which we all know. He just says whatever. And it's very much like, Joe Schmo running for class president, pizza every day, soda in the vending machines, like whatever you guys want. Like, I mean, and no student obviously would have the jurisdiction to be able to do any of these things. And neither will Donald Trump.
Everybody gets an A.
He wouldn't do it anyways.
Right. I promise everyone's going to get an A, and all the teachers are going to give all of you A pluses, even if you fail your exams, because, well, it makes you feel good and you got to get into college, right? So we'll make sure everybody gets an A. Like everybody
gets an A, nap time at 2, we all get paid in Skittles. Like it's ridiculous.
Right. So it's BS. There's other things. Trump is out here saying that, oh, well, we're going to leave it to the states. I'm not for a national abortion ban. We leave it for the states. Look, Louisiana, and Michelle, you did really great research on this today. And it's important to see where all these things are happening. You've got Louisiana that's already trying to criminalize mifepristol, which is the oral abortion pill. So a lot of times these medical abortions, I think over 60% of abortions are through this method. They're trying to make that criminalized, like a controlled substance, like Percocet and
it's illegal
Oxy.
to have.
Right.
It's illegal to have.
That's in Louisiana. Then you have in New Mexico, this Senate race in New Mexico, which is just crazy. The Republicans know that abortion is like totally a political poison pill for them. They know it. They're scrambling. We've seen it.
Right.
They're all over the place. So what's happening in New Mexico, Michelle?
So there is a Senate race going on where Martin Heinrich, I think I'm saying his name right, is in the lead, a comfortable lead. But everybody knows that it's the poison pill, abortion. You can't even mention abortion ban near them. They freak out. So Martin Heinrich put out an ad, 30 seconds. You can say a lot in 30 seconds. And his opponent freaked out, sent his campaign a cease and desist, which his campaign came back and was like, kick rocks, essentially. Because, First Amendment rights. And listen, in political advertising, you can take a little morsel of truth and kind of, expand on it creatively. Obviously, you can't come out and say things that are completely false. But it's close enough that, she comes out. Well, her thing in the end was like she had a statement that said basically, I support the Supreme Court choice to send it back to the states, but I would never support it.
Right.
You believe these people? You want to see this ad? What she got so mad about?
Yeah. Let's see it.
I'll never forget being in the grocery store with my daughter when I heard that Roe was overturned.
Like being crushed with a ton of bricks.
I'm absolutely worried about a national abortion ban.
Mitch McConnell and the MAGA Republicans are the ones who recruited Nello Domenici.
The Republicans have an agenda, and that agenda is to get rid of abortion in America.
Why is she coming to this state? And also, why is she backed by these people?
A vote for Nella is a vote for a national abortion ban.
I trust that Senator Heinrich will fight against a national abortion ban.
I'm Martin Heinrich, and I approve this message.
And so do I.
Yes. And so do we. And
it's powerful. Those straight to camera, getting real women to talk about it from their guts.
Yeah.
There's an outrage. There's a fear going on across the country. 1 in 3 women of reproductive age live in a state that has abortion restrictions. 1 in
That's a lot.
3.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And we see the stories come out every day. Horrible stories of women suffering, either dying or becoming infertile, almost dying because of these draconian laws in these red states, and where they're taking full advantage of Roe being overturned to do this.
Right. And the laws are vague enough because, listen, you talk to people on the other side, they'll talk themselves in circles, twisting themselves in pretzels, trying to explain, no, if a woman's life was in danger, it would never happen. What's happening is women are going into emergency rooms, or they're giving birth and having, this post-birth hemorrhaging. And how close to death do you have to be?
Right.
Doctors are taking a huge risk to treat you and to use these medications. And in Louisiana, they're trying to ban it altogether. So Republican laws are stripping obstetric hemorrhage carts of vital medication. These abortion bans are killing women who are giving birth to live children, and then they die.
Yep.
This is really happening.
Yes. Just ask Idaho. Ask anyone who lives in Idaho, where they have to airlift these women out because the doctors in Idaho are scared to death of whether they're going to lose their licenses or be criminally charged if they treat women who need these procedures.
Right.
And it's outrageous.
There's so many doctors who are just leaving the states.
Yes. And Texas, ask Ryan Hamilton what happened with his wife. And she got sent home multiple times when she needed a procedure that they were unwilling to do, when she did not have a viable pregnancy anymore. And she almost bled to death on their bathroom floor.
Yep. And she went to what, 2 or 3 different hospitals,
Yes.
urgent cares, and she was turned away.
Yes.
So don't tell me that, oh, they would never do that. Yes, they will, because people are scared for their lives and their careers and their medical licenses, and they don't want to go to jail for
That's right.
treating a woman. So again, who gets to decide how close to death you are that they can treat you? How far along? Who decides that, and how close do you have to be? And so look at this, the governor of Louisiana. This is the same guy who wants to put the 10 Commandments in classrooms.
I can't believe we're back to these conversations. The 10 Commandments in the classrooms is so 30 years ago. It's so insane. 90s, and like Ralph Reed and the Christian Coalition and all those guys. Like, those were the arguments back then. And the fact these are all being resurrected again, it shows you that this Christian nationalism and the popularity of it, it's not going away. These people are getting elected to offices, and they are also ones that want to go after IVF. They're pushing, they're pushing the fetal personhood laws in these different states. These are the same tactics they use to get Roe overturned. So pay attention, people. Pay attention. They're doing this all under our noses.
Yes, and Dobbs really opened the floodgates.
Yes,
again, to all the vagueness. You know, what's legal, what's not. And a lot of the Christian nationalists, there's 2 things that they really hate about IVF. One of them is that there's, you know, depending on the couple, you can have a lot of embryos, and obviously you don't want to give birth to 12 children or 15 children. So they're discarded, and that's just part of the process. Also, there are embryos that are not viable. When they do genetic testing on them, they are discarded because they would not make it to term anyways. The second thing is that they don't want women and couples deciding when and how to have children, because that is all about control. They don't want to all this nonsense that JD Vance is talking about, right? About how dare women, you know, go get jobs when they should really just be starting families. And we have, let's listen to that clip, because
oh my God,
absolutely
infuriating.
Hold on, here it is.
So you have people at Yale Law School, you have women who think that truly the liberationist path is to spend 90 hours a week working in a cubicle at McKinsey instead of starting a family and having children. And I think that those people, in their defense, they genuinely believe that the path of liberation is to work 90 hours in a cubicle at McKinsey. What they don't realize, and I think some of them do eventually realize it, thank God, is that that is actually a path to misery. And the path to happiness and to fulfillment is something that these institutions are telling people not to do.
Outrageous. So if you want to have a career and you choose not to have children as a woman, that is a path to misery, according to JD Vance. If that is not the most backward ass thinking, and it's taking us back to a time when women didn't have the choice, where there was marital rape, where they had no choice but to have kids and be the vessels of birth for their husbands, whether they wanted to or not. And that's why we say we won't go back. We've been saying this for months at the Seneca Project. It's been one of our monikers. Obviously, Kamala Harris has embraced this too. We're not going back. We're not going back to that.
No.
And we don't want people who believe that that's the role of women in charge of making decisions for our futures. Like, it's as simple as that. How does his wife feel about this? She's a Yale-educated woman.
I do not understand that at all. That is the most puzzling, baffling thing. And you know, he talks about her like she's some like
she's some like other person. Same thing with his own kids. He doesn't talk about his own. There's no connection.
Kids.
No connection.
Like my wife's kids, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Like,
buddy,
this baby, she had this baby, and this baby, is it yours or not? It starts to make you wonder, is she a beard or what? Because the whole thing feels very weird. And I'm sorry, JD Vance has some interesting tendencies and some like weird traumas that he has not worked out yet, which is I also said tonight on MSNBC. And I don't want those people. We got JD Vance with his weird mommy issues and Trump and his daddy issues. And you want these two degenerates running our country, making decisions for us and our daughters? I don't even think so. And no, thank you.
Right. And God forbid, Donald Trump is 78 years old. He eats McDonald's and KFC. I mean, if you've seen this man waddling around Mar-a-Lago on these videos, he does not look okay. He rambles. Right. I don't think he knows where he is half the time. He did that thing with Sean Hannity last night on Fox. He was talking about, Biden, and I'm like, you're not running against him anymore. Like, I don't think he knows where he is or what day it is.
He doesn't.
So, no. And so we are a heartbeat away. If Donald Trump were to win, God forbid, one heartbeat away from having JD Vance decide our fate as women in this country.
Real. That's real. That's not us being like melodramatic. That's legit. And it's the same argument that Nikki Haley tried to use about Biden and Kamala Harris. She was trying to scare people into, scared people into, oh my God, you're really voting for Kamala Harris because Biden's old and he can drop dead at any moment. But look how wrong she was in that people actually are embracing Kamala Harris because, and even I've had concerns, but she's even impressed me and the way that she's come out and handled things and matured into the office and the role. And she's not crazy. And she's not going to surround herself with a bunch of people who think women should be the handmaid's tale. She's just not. It's pretty simple. But, there's lots of people out here that are still undecided, which is hard to imagine. But the good news is the polling is showing that the momentum is with her. It's still very close. It's still very close. Yes. But that professor from American University, I think his name is Alan Lichtman, who does this like the 13 keys. Yeah. He's a little quirky, but his 13 keys system he's successfully predicted 9 out of the last 10. And something one of them was like I think it was Bush v. Gore, which could have gone either way. That was that was nuts. Right. But
I'll keep my opinions to myself.
I know. We won't relitigate that. However, the point is his system is very accurate, and he is predicting that Kamala Harris has enough of these 13 keys to win. So I like that. I like the sound of that. But that doesn't mean, again, that it's still going to be very close. And
too close.
And they're also sowing all kinds of weird seeds to question the legitimacy of the election again. So unless it's like a 49 to 50 state blowout, which is probably not going to be, there's going to be some close elections here. And there's a lot of Trump people in positions of election supervisors, or they're on the board of elections in these states like Georgia that are going to try to wreak havoc. Pennsylvania also, because they have laws that are different, where Pennsylvania, you can't start counting the absentee ballots until midnight of the day of the election and shit like that. And if it's going to take a couple days, they're going to try and wreak havoc again. I'm telling you, we have to be prepared for this.
Absolutely. Beat them absolutely. Really well. And I think that again, the Republicans also know how close it is, and then they have a deeply, deeply flawed candidate. I think probably behind closed doors, everyone's complaining about him, probably trying to figure out, how do we move on from him? How do we save the party after this? Because I think they all think, good luck. We all say that it needs to burn to the ground. But this is where a lot of vulnerable races, people are freaking out, like Rick Scott in Florida, because abortion is on the ballot in the state of Florida. Now, Rick Scott won his election in 2018 by 10,000 votes?
It was close.
Very close. He's weird. People don't like him. He looks like
a crook.
He's a crook, right? His business had a whole bunch of,
Medicare, Medicaid, and nursing homes and stuff.
Right. He looks like Voldemort. You know that he does.
He does.
You know that he does. So he was speaking to some students the other day, again, to the misinformation, telling some crazy, crazy ass lies about post-birth abortion. Now, if you're like me and you have been listening to Republicans the last few years talk about and then they kill the baby. They kill them at the 9th month. And then even after the baby is born, they kill them. And I'm
Trump says it all the time.
All the time. DeSantis said it. It's bananas crazy. I'm going to play this clip because, and I'm just going to warn you. I'm going to warn you, it's a little almost graphic what he says. So plug your ears if you're squeamish, but it's so completely bonkers and horrific.
Now, if you want to follow how that happens, you crush a baby's skull. A baby that would be born healthy, alive at 9 months, 2 minutes before, okay, it can be crushed and killed, okay? I think that's extreme and barbaric. On top of that, all the Democrats have voted have voted to say that a baby born healthy alive can be allowed to put in the corner and starve itself to death. They voted that way. I think that's barbaric and extreme. So
What?
It's so.
Where do they do that at? As the kids say, where do they do
Right.
that at? They don't do that in America ever.
No, it's literally not a thing. And they continue to say it. And of course, like you say like that, it's scary. People who don't know. So if you're like me and you've been wondering where the hell did this come from, I was reading again, Jessica Valenti. Follow her on all the platforms. She does all this incredible research on this topic.
She does amazing work.
Yeah, and she's going to be doing reproductive rights glossary series. It's going to be new episodes on Tuesday on a website called The Meteor. Very informative. She did one the other day explaining this. I had no idea about this. And it makes sense now that I'm like, oh, yeah. So it started in 2019 with the former governor of Virginia.
I'm Jessica Valenti, and this is Anti-Abortion Glossary. Today we're talking about the term post-birth abortion. This is a term that you've probably heard Donald Trump use. He likes to claim that Democrats are trying to pass legislation, or that they have passed legislation, that allows for newborns to be killed. Trump has even accused Vice President Kamala Harris of supporting the execution of babies.
She wants abortions in the 8th and 9th month of pregnancy. That's fine with her. Right up until birth, and even after birth, the execution of a baby.
Calling women murderers is nothing new. It's something that the anti-abortion movement has been doing for decades. The term post-birth abortion is newer, and it didn't come out of nowhere. It started when Republicans twisted a 2019 interview with former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. Northam was asked a ridiculous question about a hypothetical scenario in which a woman in labor wanted an abortion.
It's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, and then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
Republicans immediately smelled blood in the water, and they used that interview as a way to claim that Democrats were promoting the murder of newborns. But Northam was talking about a very real and heartbreaking situation where parents are faced with babies who are born too early to survive, or they have conditions that are incompatible with life, and they have to decide whether or not they want those babies to be given invasive medical procedures that are not going to save their lives. And that is what Trump is calling post-birth abortion, and that's who he is calling executioners.
I'm so glad you played that, because people need to know these things. You know, we're here to inform. And it's not just, the more informed we are, the more you can counter the disinformation that's being put out there.
Yeah, it's ammunition, and really like it's arming ourselves, right? Arming ourselves with information so that we can go into conversations with people, so that we can talk to other prospective voters, maybe in our families or in our communities. And, you know, this is a real thing that people ask, well, is that true? Like, I mean, they keep saying it. No, it's not.
It's not.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. It's a lie, like a lot of the other things. But a lie, what do they say? That a lie can travel around the world before the truth puts its pants on, or whatever, right?
Right.
I mean,
you can't unring the bell.
Right, you can't. And so it's important to make sure that those lies are combated. So speaking of that, a couple other things. I think we should show the Project 2020. No, the Christian nationalism. Since we're talking about that, let's show the Christian nationalism video, because guys, listen, we're not making this up about these religious nuts that are out here that are trying to inject this into our zeitgeist and control public policy and this dystopian world. Michelle put this compilation together. It's very saucy language. So if there's kids in the room, you might want to let them leave or just be prepared for it. But this is the way they're speaking, not us. These are the people that support Donald Trump and that want to get into power. Oh my God.
And we played this a few weeks ago, and just so you know, we read all the comments, and somebody actually told me I got one of the names wrong. So thank you for that. I went in and fixed it and made a new version of it. And I just want to tie this in with the Russia thing with the podcasters and stuff. Like, that's just one little network of this happening. Who knows how many of them there are? And these are a lot of people who are kind of part of that manosphere of masculinity that Trump is trying to dive into to get more votes and to get more people to come out and vote for him, because he can't expand his base. So to Tara's point, it's just terrible. We're going to watch it now.
The reason why I have grown to despise democracy, everyone is allowed to vote, right? Everyone. And just for the record, I think the 19th Amendment should be repealed. I think that because, well, first and foremost, because I'm a Christian, and that is the Christian position. Oh my gosh, you're saying that? Yes, that is the Christian position. By repealing the 19th Amendment, just for the record, it's not just trying to take away a female vote, but it's trying to say, no, there's a family vote. There's a household. And it's like, well, where do women get their voice? Where women get their voice is from their father, from their husband. If they're not married, it's from their father. If they're not married and their father's dead, it's from their brother, it's from their uncle, it's the men in their lives that love them.
I've been accused of being sexist and misogynist, and for whoever's accused me of that, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And fuck you, you feminist twats. When you're in your ego and your desire to gain power by still using your sexuality, you can't get ahead. You can only get ahead by either fucking more powerful men or suing more powerful men or shitting on more powerful men. You can't get more powerful independently. Imagine that. That's why they get desperate, feminists do, because they can't get ahead without either giving head or taking a head off in the court.
A lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
When women were granted the right to vote, the nation had already accepted the lie that a nation is nothing more than a collection of individuals. And so the matter was framed this way. Men as individuals can vote, so why cannot individual women do the same? We were so muddled, we thought we were giving the franchise to women when we were in fact taking it away from families.
People are like, that's so archaic. You're a Neanderthal. You're so, primitive and chauvinistic. You won't let women vote. Well, our society doesn't let 5-year-olds vote. We don't let children vote. And it's not just because of competency, because that would be the immediate counter as well, but their brain isn't fully developed. And so are you saying that a woman is like a child? Yes.
I mean, it speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. This is what we're dealing with every day. That Nick Fuentes, the one that said that women want to be raped, he had lunch at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Okay? So don't tell me that Donald Trump doesn't know about this. He doesn't know anything about these people. He doesn't care. Oh, he's going to be great. Oh, a Trump administration will be great for women. Really?
From the guy who overturned Roe v. Wade and then bragged about it. Like, how stupid does he think we are? He thinks we are very stupid. And this is, again, why we have to continue talking about this.
Yep. You have 100%. Also, just for this week, just something else in the news we got to touch on. Today, actually, we were actually supposed to debut our IVF ad on Nicole Wallace's show today, but because of all the breaking news, we weren't able to do it, which is why we're releasing it tomorrow. But Judge Chutkin in the January 6th case is not having any of it. And she did not want to hear about the excuse that Trump was using, his team was using, about delaying that trial more and delaying any of the pretrial motions and things because of the election schedule. She was like, I don't give a shit. Basically, she didn't say it like that.
I didn't make you
a little more
president. Yeah.
Right. She said it a little more appropriately. Yeah. But that's what she was saying. Like, I'm sorry, but like my courtroom doesn't care about the election calendar. And good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her. We have pointed out on numerous occasions that women will be the undoing of Trump. And this is another example because it's been women in power, judges, prosecutors, women who have stood up to him, like E. Jean Carroll, Stormy Daniels. They are the ones that are finally exposing Trump and making him be held accountable. Obviously, what's happening with the immunity case and all of that has prevented Donald Trump from being held accountable really through the justice system. is very frustrating. The fact that the January 6th case is not going to be heard before, or the documents case, well, that's one woman that is a moron and should never have been a judge in the first place.
Cannon, right?
Yes, Eileen Cannon down there in Florida. But the fact that none of those cases are going to be litigated in front of the American people before the election, I think, is a travesty of justice. But one of the things that Judge Chutkan did allow for, which I think she's going to end up ruling on, it might have happened already, but in some of these pretrial motions, what the government has and the theory of the case will be seen in public documents. And so it's almost, and that's before the election. That's what the Trump team was trying to fight against. They didn't want that, because then what you see is what's being alleged and what kind of evidence the government has in these motions. And so we may get to see some of this going on here. We may get to see at least, the American people have some awareness of what's being alleged against him and how dishonest and how corrupt the plot to overthrow our government in 2020 actually was. And they're going to try and do it again.
Yes.
So all of these things combined, folks, we have to stay vigilant. We must, because our lives as women literally depend on it. Mm-hmm. And our health of our democracy literally depends on it. So with that, I think we should play. Should we play something uplifting from Seneca? Should we play Yes We Can? Or should we play another warning of Project 2025? I don't like to leave it on a bad note. I like people to feel inspired and empowered.
I have an idea of what we should play, and I'll play it. But I do want to say before we go, that again, Tara and I come together to do this once a week. Not a lot of bells and whistles. While I sit here co-hosting with Tara, I'm also running the switchboard and trying to figure out what's going to go next. And hope to God I don't, click on the wrong thing. But, we formed the Seneca Project because we care about women. We know what is at stake, and we knew that it had to be us in this moment to do it. We wish we'd done it a little bit earlier, but things happen the way they do. And that just happens. We're only, two months, two and a half
months in. It's hard to believe.
Right. So again, we feel that we are uniquely positioned to speak to these women, to them, not at them, and create that permission structure that Tara always talks about, for people to cross over and vote for a Democrat in protection of our democracy and for our own rights.
Yep.
So, we all of your comments.
Yes. No, I was saying everything we do and say comes from our own experiences too.
Yes.
Which is also what makes us uniquely qualified.
Yeah.
We practice what we preach. We've lived some of these experiences. So that's why it comes across so authentic, I would hope, to you guys from us, because we speak from positions of authority and experience here on a lot of these things. And we want other women to feel that they're not alone, that their voices are heard, and that we all are in this together.
Yeah.
Together.
And we have to stand up for the right thing. It's not always the easy thing to do.
Right.
But if we have to hold these people accountable, not just with our words, but not just in the courts, but with our votes. And that's our way of being able to do that. And here at the Seneca Project, we're hoping, again, to create the permission structure for those people to come and vote for Kamala Harris.
Yep.
So, and we just, we're so thankful that you're here. We're so thankful for your support.
Yes.
I know I see a lot of the same names in the comments every single week. We see all of you.
The little community. We like that.
It's great. I'm obsessed with it.
Yes.
I love all your comments. Even the not so friendly ones. I love you too. But we hope that you'll continue to tune in and
continue to support us too, because listen, every little bit counts, and we're uniquely positioned in different from the campaigns, because the campaigns have to handle multiple issues. We're single focused here with women, and we get to be a little bit edgier, and we can say things and put messages into our content that the campaigns really can't, because they have to be all things to all people, and we don't.
Right.
So that's what makes us different.
Right. And being bipartisan, we're not beholden to any party. We don't have to do anything for anybody. We don't have a candidate that we answer to, and we don't have those guardrails to, for somebody to be like, well, I don't know if you could say that. Well, we're going to.
That's right. So, we'll say it. We'll say it. We'll do it. We're not, we're not worried about that. So
right.
So on that note, we will see you next week. We've got the debate on Tuesday, so there'll be lots to talk about on Thursday. Look out for our big girl dad IVF ad coming out tomorrow morning. Please, please, please like and subscribe here on YouTube. And if you haven't been to our website, check out senecaproject.us. You can sign up for our emails and be the first to be notified when we drop new content. And we're going to leave you on a high note with Yes, We Cam.
This election, it will come down to the women turning out in the battleground states.
We know that when women show up, we win.
We've got one job to do. We have got to beat Donald Trump and elect the first woman president of the United States.
We have work to do. We have doors to knock on. We have people to talk to. We have phone calls to make. And we have an election to win.
It is a brand new race.
It's a moment that I feel like people are energized.
Kamala Harris is bringing that energy.
Women are fed up. This is their lives. This is their body on the line.
Birth control is at stake.
I cannot vote for a man who rolls back women's reproductive rights.
If Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban, but we are not going to let that happen.
Abortion advocates are going to come out even harder for her because they know that she has been their champion in the White House.
The government should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
It was Kamala Harris that was cross-examining the very nominees that became the justices that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Vice President Harris, former prosecutor. Donald Trump, convicted felon.
I will proudly put my record against his.
She has overcome and overperformed and been underestimated at every turn of her career.
She's broken and smashed glass ceiling after glass ceiling.
And for all of those people asking, is this country ready for a woman president? Is this country ready for a black woman president? Well, you better get ready because Madame Vice President is coming your way.